it's a practice, and I just like the whole concept of it because it really simplifies everything and makes it really manageable and attainable. Yeah,
I feel
welcome
like
to
I was
the
listening
Inner
to
Archeology
podcasts.
Podcast. When do we
Yeah,
ever say things like that? Never.
I know.
We
I was
immediately
listening to
dig
other
right.
people's podcasts, and I was like, "Oh, other people welcome people, and they say the name of their podcast." I was like, "Maybe we should do that."
And we're like, so I've been thinking about childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Like as soon as it starts.
We've recorded our podcast so far, just like we got on the phone with each other. Literally,
Yes.
hey, what's up? Like that's how we've done it, which I love.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm
I'm cool
Sarah.
with it.
Also, for those of you who don't know,
Yes,
this is Emily. You want to
I'm
say hi?
Emily.
Yeah. Look
Hi,
at us.
hi everyone.
We're learning. I don't know that it's necessary, actually. You can figure it out as we
Yeah,
go, right?
we could try it.
Yeah.
Try things.
um well, I'm excited. I really actually this is like a topic we had mentioned in previous episodes wanting to talk about, and so I've kind of been thinking about it, and I think it's really important, and we're calling it raising your baselines. um and I guess what we mean by that is how, if you have like getting to a place, creating new normals in your life, really, like getting to a
Yeah.
place with certain things to where it's kind of more on autopilot and becomes like the new norm, which kind of just elevates your day to day. And you can
Mm.
raise your baselines in like a number of different areas in your life. And so I just kind of want to talk about that because I actually think that that's how life gets better. It's like through small consistent actions that kind of just like create a new normal for you. And it's so easy, I think, when you raise your baselines, when you're constantly like, I don't know, it could be simple things like feeding yourself well,
Mhm,
exercising
mhm.
consistently, reading books consistently. Um, and when you do that and things get easier, you can just so forget what it was like previously. And also, the
Right.
thing that I love about this conversation and like why I'm excited to dig into it is because I feel like it's not often talked about in this way. And I think that when you realize you can raise your baselines in different areas of your life, for me anyway, it was a relief to know that it wasn't
Mhm.
some like grandiose, dramatic, life changing thing that needed to happen for me to like not hate myself,
Mm.
rather than like lots of like little stuff. Um,
Right.
and when you're in a like dark place where like your baselines are in the trash, like in the actual trash
Right.
can, and like drinking water is all you can do.
Right. Maybe.
Maybe putting lemon in your water, it will forever be my favorite like reference, my favorite like
Yeah,
depression reference. Like, she puts lemon in her
right.
water. What's wrong with her?
What is
What is
life
that
what is
like to
life
care for
like?
your life enough to do something that makes your water marginally more enjoyable?
Right.
um
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, and so it's a practice, and I just like the whole concept of it because it really simplifies everything and makes it
Mhm.
really manageable and attainable. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but that's
Yeah,
why I'm
no, I
excited to
love
have this conversation.
yes. I
In
fucking love you.
conclusion.
Um, yes, like, I love that you started off by saying, like, the they're, like, these small steps, and I think so, and I know I've done this, and I know so many people get caught up on in this belief that you have to make these massive
Mhm,
leaps in order to significantly change your life,
mhm.
and when the truth is that, like, the things like we like to sensationalize stories like that, like
Mhm.
somebody wins the lottery or somebody's talent
Right.
is like discovered or some huge thing happens to somebody, and I think that because we have highlighted that like in film and even on the news and stuff, we all have a belief that that's how your life changes, when the truth is your life is made by all those little tiny choices that you make every
Mhm.
day, compiling up over time. That's what really creates your life. And there's an anomaly of like huge,
people.
breaks
The
or whatever.
quantum leap.
Um,
Actually, there's that
yeah.
idea of the quantum leap in like meditation manifestation, and I actually think it's
Mhm.
really harmful for the most part.
Mm.
When I hear people talk about it, it actually makes me cringe because I'm like, that's so like misleading in my opinion and
Mm.
potentially
Can you tell
harmful.
me can you tell me more what, like, cuz I've heard that term, but I don't think I really understand what that even means,
To
quantum leap.
my understanding, and it's actually something Joe Dispenza talks about, from what I
Oh,
gather, but
okay.
I've never really heard him talk about it, but I've heard
Mm.
other people explain it to me, and it came largely from Joe Dispenza, who we love.
Interesting.
Um,
Right.
like, don't quote me on this, but,
Ah.
my understanding is that through, like, meditation, manifestation, bringing in things energetically, you can make quantum leaps is what they're calling the transformation where your life changes like so dramatically overnight. But
Mm.
and they also touch on the idea of the compound effect, the power of the compound effect, which I think is also a really
Mm.
important concept. Because in the compound effect, when you're making lots of small changes to your life, right? The compound curve
Mm.
starts out really like gradual and then all of a sudden like curves and shoots like up,
Spikes up.
like it's an
Yes. Yeah.
exponential curve. And so it's a similar concept that you're kind of like always on the cusp of this like life changing, revolutionary quantum leap into a better life. And while like
Mhm.
that can be true, the way I've heard people talk about it, it kind of there's not so much of an emphasis on like the actual like day to day like doing things. There's a lot more like hope and faith put on the fact that like something huge is just around the
You're just
corner
going
and
to
you're like, wait,
transform.
yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I might have like misinterpreted this because I'm by no means an expert on quantum leaps. I've just heard people talking about it, and in hearing people talk about it and explain it to me, usually with a lot of hope, like this is just around the corner for me, I've walked away from those conversations thinking, wow, I think that that's like really harmful, or could be,
Mm.
because if you're just always
Sure.
waiting for like a quantum leap, I, I don't know. It's hard because like yeah, I do believe that having beliefs that it's possible for you probably makes it more likely. I think that that's probably true, but I also worry about the people who put too much like hope and faith in that, and then
In some
and it
future
and
event. Yeah.
I guess where it's problematic is if it alleviates is not the right word, or gives you permission to like not take necessary action.
To be
That's when it's
passive.
harmful actually.
Yes.
There it is. There
Yes.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Thank you. That is like, and I feel like I like really agree with that. There are many things in even just like the mindset, wellness, the metaphysical, all that stuff that people can use to just bypass
mhm. Mhm.
doing the work, the everyday work.
The everyday work.
But like, yeah, but I do think that like, I mean, maybe this idea of quantum leap. I'm reading that book, Atomic Habits, and they talk about how it's like you start doing crunches,
Mhm.
you're not going to have abs,
Yeah.
and you're going to feel like nothing is happening. But if you stick with it, all of a sudden it is going to feel like you have this sudden transformation when things kind of like come together. And one day you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I have abs now. I have a six pack. But it doesn't. And I think like sometimes it can feel like,
Mhm.
and that's like a physical representation, but even like finances, like
Mhm.
even just like feeding yourself or health, wellness, your home, organization, your business, whatever, apply it to whatever.
Mhm.
I think a lot of times it can feel like some sort of big transformational leap when in reality it's just the compound effect of little things that you were just consistent at doing, and maybe you got so used to it or so accustomed to it that you kind of forgot about the even the intentions of that. It was just part of your habit, and
Mhm.
then you experienced the results of those habits
Mhm.
compounding. And so I wonder if like I don't know, it's
Maybe
like
for
it's some
me
of that
though,
wrapped
like
up in it.
I know, but anytime I've like reaped the rewards of of the compound effect, which I feel like I can see it in action in my life, because that is something
Mm,
that I think is important to remind people. Because, for example, like if you take me and like financial stability from when I was like massively in debt and like real scared about being able to pay my bills and like crying when I did my taxes, you know what I mean? And just like being a
mhm,
hot mess financially to, paying off that debt, being able to actually put some money away in savings and like and then like my business has grown, I would say exponentially. And when you look at that,
mhm,
I guess I don't know, I just have such a hard time with that cuz it's like if you're actually acting in a way to take advantage of the compound effect, it feels really difficult for me to think that anyone would look back because it takes so much like small consistent actions and be like, "Oh wow,
mhm.
I did a quantum leap." I don't know, maybe it's just an interpretation of like what that means. But to me
Right.
anytime I've raised my baselines, I can look back and see exactly how it happened. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't
Mm.
feel like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
now I
I hear
suddenly have
you.
abs." I'm like, "I know why I have fucking abs. I did crunches every day."
Right.
You know what I mean?
I
So
guess what yeah,
maybe
I
it's
hear you.
me. I don't know.
I'm like, I guess what I'm referring to like a combination of what I've been reading in this book, and then also a lot of what like Sam Ovens talks about in his course
Oh,
and how
interesting.
he refers to it that way. So, but yeah, I guess I feel like, of course, there are people maybe who are more present and intentional with like the steps you're taking and the actions that you're
Mm,
making, and maybe some people go more on like autopilot and they're not really like, they're like, well, we're just doing it because we're doing it,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe it's just like semantics or getting hung up on like the word choice and I don't know. Um but I think it's funny cuz well I think this okay, another reason I think this whole conversation is really important is through I have a big belief that it's important to like show up even when shit is hard, especially when shit is hard,
Mhm.
and keep moving towards like the thing that is like what you ultimately want, whether it's like us showing up and doing this podcast, even when life is like bananas. Because I think that too often we also have the belief that like we're gonna need to like feel something is right and then it will be easy
Mm.
to like take the action when in fact I think
Right.
really
Or feel prepared. Yeah.
yeah, and I really, really,
Yeah.
really strongly believe that it's the opposite, and that's what like stops people from taking the action is that you take the imperfect action that feels awkward and maybe not even like in alignment with you because it's in alignment with a future you, right? And so
Yeah.
like okay, for example, I was being interviewed and they said, what's your big why for starting your business? Like think about when you first started your business. What's your why? What was your why?" And I like laughed and I was like, my why when I was starting my like copywriting business was to like not hate myself and like to like like the even the idea of like wanting to get out of bed was like that's hilarious. Like that's so
Mhm.
far away. um it was so much more like I want to work from it was so simple. It was like I want to work from
Mhm.
anywhere and I want to like not be in debt and I want to like not hate my day to day, you know? And so
Mhm.
that is I
Yeah.
guess what I'm like trying to touch on is like when you're raising your baselines, like where you're trying to get to next can be just like not the most inspiring even. It's like I just want to
Mm. Mhm.
I want to like feed myself like two square like solid meals and then you get to a place where you're
Right.
like you're just doing that and you don't have to think about it because
Mhm.
it's not such a
Yes.
struggle and it's not such a grind. You're just like eating
Yes.
healthy and
Yes.
yeah.
I, it's so funny because this whole what you're talking about, I feel like I'm actively in it.
But I think
I'm
you're
fucking
always
in
in
it.
it. I
Yeah.
think you're always in it actually.
I think that's true. But I guess I feel like I'm in it and my baseline's kind of fucking low right now. Like I was not too far in my past that I was like in the barely being able to drink water phase, right?
Yes. But I think this is why it's
So
good to talk about this. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
And so it's like something that I've been thinking, it's been on top of mind for me, just in like, for because it's so easy, I think, when life feels chaotic and you're like, something's off, something's wrong, I don't like how I feel. And then you have to take that like ambiguous feeling and distill it down and figure out what are the main
Mhm.
problems.
Mhm.
Right? Like,
Mhm.
and they're very like I am drowning in debt. I Fluorescent lighting is killing me. You know what I mean? And they're really like, they can be really simple, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like some of mine are just like, I like one of my problems right now that I'm trying to figure out is how to fucking stay on top of laundry. Like the laundry situation with an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old and me, and like the laundry situation is a situation, and I
It's
am
like
like, this is a problem that I need to solve. I need to figure out
it's like you
how
have to
laundry
constantly
cannot
be doing
like take up so
laundry.
much of my life.
Just like constantly.
Right. Right. So it's like I need a different schedule. I need my children to participate in a
Yes.
better way.
This is time. They're at
And
that age. Time to do laundry.
exactly. But I'm like, but the thing is like, I feel like when you're in that chaos, sometimes it can be even really hard to put your finger on what specifically
Needs to
is
change.
causing me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because sometimes when you're like, everything's bad, I need like a whole new life. Like, I need to actually just
For
like
me, it's like
pick
I
up
have to
and start
leave.
over.
I'm always like, "Yes,
Yes.
I'm just gonna leave this house with all of my belongings and possessions in it, and I'm just gonna fucking, like, peace out." That used to be me
Just start from scratch.
all the time. I was like, "I'm just gonna start over in a new town." Great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. And I think like that is like, when people feel that way, I think that's just a really good,
Yeah.
indicator that you're operating on a level of overwhelm that
Yes.
you really need to like start getting specific on what are some problems you can solve right
Yes.
now, you know?
Yes. And
Yeah.
also remembering that, like, it doesn't mean you need to sit down and do laundry for like 2 hours every Monday. I really think that it can be like, I'm just going to like throw it in the wash and like walk away. And
Mhm.
then like tonight, I'm going to like swap it. And then tomorrow, I'm going to like pull it out. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even need to be
Right.
like sit down and do
These
laundry for
huge
two.
things.
No, yeah.
Exactly.
In fact, I think
Right,
it
because
shouldn't.
that's what's not working for me,
Yes.
is
Is being
like,
like, I'm
okay,
going to
now
do.
I'm gonna do laundry for the foreseeable future. Like, that's
Yes.
how it was the other day. The other day, I was sitting in this mountain of laundry because it just kept and my girls are like, "I have no pants." And I'm like, "It's because 'cause they're all clean. They're just not
Like,
in
put
your
away.
drawer," you know? And I was sitting in this mountain of laundry, and I had like a small existential crisis, and I was like, I looked at Evie. I was like, "This is who I am now. I'm a laundry person.
I
This
just
is
do
my
laundry.
identity." Yeah, and she goes, "Mom, you're not just a laundry person. You're our laundry person."
The honesty. The
And
honesty.
I died. I died. I thought she was gonna go like, "You're our mom, and you're so much more than that." But she was just like, "You're our laundry person." Oh my god, but that's exactly what I needed. I was like,
That is
I
hilarious.
am.
I am.
Man, oh, she's got a
Listen,
great sense of
the other
humor.
part of this conversation, though, that I think is really important about raising your baselines is that you're not perpetually like you don't have to raise them across the board in every category. You can focus on one
Yeah.
thing, right? So it can be like eating
Mm,
or working out or whatever. And then the trick, I really think the trick is that once you raise your baseline, you have to have a new standard in that area, right?
mm,
So I know this is kind of a like hard one to talk about or whatever, but for me, like physically, I don't know. I have like a standard, a baseline of like being fit, of how like fit I am. And when I start to
Mm.
creep below that, I'm like, okay, this is my new focus for like the next week. Is I'm just gonna like make sure I'm
Yeah.
like working out every day because this has been slipping. I've been like working too much and I'm not like working out. And like this actually recently happened where like a month went by and I didn't work out and I could feel it like physically and mentally. And I was like, and I rearranged my day. I just like no meetings now, like start before 10, except for when we're recording this podcast at 10 a.m. And now I work out in the mornings because when I was saving it for the afternoon, it wasn't getting done. And I was feeling it was like
Right.
when I don't work out, it's like it's not just like a physical thing, it's like a mental thing. Like I start getting like
Mm.
sad, I start getting anxious. Um and that's how I know. And Ben's the same way. So it's like it's not only about like raising your baselines, but then being like, this is like a new like bare minimum for me. And I'm not
Right.
like when
Like
I
it
and
the
when I
floor
start to
comes up.
notice
Yeah.
me like slipping back, I'm like, oh, time to prioritize this particular thing. Um,
Yeah.
and that I think is also really important. That's a big part concept in the slight edge that I really like is because he talks about the compound
Mm.
effect, but he talks about how most people live their life improving. They're like, okay, this is an area that needs attention. They do the slight edge even, or they make like leaps and bounds in an area. They get to a place where they feel better and then they stop. And he's like,
Right.
and that's the difference. His like whole thing is like, that's the difference between like people who struggle for their whole life and people who like thrive is like when you get to the
Yeah.
part where you alleviate pain, discomfort, whatever it is that like this part of your life it like needs attention. He's like, that's when you don't stop. That's the part where you're like,
Mm.
okay, I'm starting to feel good. I'm going to keep doing this so that it continues that
Mhm.
like trajectory rather than making all these like ups and downs, like mountains and valleys of like of cycles. And I for me that's like such an important reminder because I want to do that. As soon as you like alleviate pain in a particular area, like temporarily with the laundry, right? You like finally like cleared your
Mhm.
plate. But it would be so
Right.
easy to just like let yourself get back into that cycle because you just spent so much time clearing your plate, right?
Right, and I just wanna fucking not do
Do
laundry.
laundry, but like the
That's
thing
the problem.
yes,
Yeah,
but
that
the
is
thing to
exactly the
do there
problem.
is to actually like figure out a new system that is like
Right.
dishing it out a little bit over time so that you don't have to get to that point where you're like, I'm just I am you're our
I'm a
laundry
laundry
person.
person. That
Ah.
this is so true, and I feel like I have experienced in so many different ways the like implementing some new habit to
Yep.
alleviate whatever pain, sadness, disappointment, whatever. And then I get there, I get to a good place,
Mhm.
and then you stop. And I know I see so many different areas that I've done that. And I think I'm curious, like it's almost like, for me at least, it's about really drawing the solutions to these problems into my conscious mind, like
Yes.
really really consciously looking at it and separating the problems from self-loathing. I think this is such a
Yes.
necessary
I love
step,
how it's like
because when
self-loathing. It's not it's like the
yeah,
darkest one, but yes, continue. I just love you.
for me
I'm
at
laughing
least,
at your pain
yes.
a little bit. I love you.
Because so this is what goes on in my brain. I see the huge mountain of laundry,
And
and
you're
I'm
like,
like,
I'm a bad
I
mom.
am the worst.
Yeah.
I'm a horrible mom.
You're
I'm terrible. I'm the worst.
you're
And
not
then
a
I
bad mom.
shame myself into folding laundry, right? And this is not a healthy
Place to
cycle,
be doing
and it
well,
doesn't,
I'm sorry. I'm like
you know,
but like no wonder you hate doing laundry if the only time you get yourself to do it is from a place of shame.
it's just
I feel like you need to have
pure
like a
shame
laundry
and
party.
self-loathing.
You have to have like a laundry party where it's like
Right,
doing a
make it
little bit at a
fun.
time. We're going to spend 30 minutes. We're going to put on loud music. We're all going to do laundry
Mhm.
and put it away. Like
Yeah,
laundry
totally,
parties.
totally. Yeah. So for me, I have to separate. It's so easy to be like, "Oh, I'm not feeling very fit, and
Mm,
it's because
mhm.
I'm the worst," or "I'm
Mhm.
not fe or, "Oh
Mhm.
god, like, I'm." behind on whatever, it's because I'm just like, I literally have no self control, or I have those like thought processes, and I experience a lot of that like destructive criticism. And for me, in order to be successful, and I have been successful in a lot of areas, but the success happens when I can separate that self-loathing and see it as a problem I can solve, and not an
Yes.
issue with like some sort of flaw in my character.
Right.
It's just truly something I can solve. It's
Right.
not just I'm a fucked up human and I'm going to suffer.
I'm practicing being a laundry fairy, and
Yes.
being a laundry fairy takes practice. And,
Uh-huh. I'm getting good at my skills.
yes, yes. No, I think this is good because another important concept, so much of this is, like, from The Slight Edge. I just love that book. Everybody knows I love that book.
Mhm.
But for me, the thing like, one of my mantras in life for the last, like, probably 6 years, truly, is the concept of course correcting. And instead
Mm.
of being like, I don't know, has there ever been a point in time where you've done everything perfectly for like a week and you're just like, ah, yes, all the laundry's done, everything is clean, work is going great? Like, not really. I don't know that I like
Mhm.
maybe for like a day, there's been like a
A
glimpse
day
where you're like,
maybe.
I did
Yeah.
it, I perfected
I
it.
did the thing.
I am perfect at life right now in this very small moment. But 99% of
Yeah.
life for me is me scrambling to kind of like get shit back on track. And that's
Mm,
like the
mhm.
concept of like course correcting, and not just like course correcting when things fucked up, but just like you're always course correcting. Like you're never
Mm.
not. You're always like repositioning yourself in alignment with like where you're trying to go. And if you are
Yeah.
expecting yourself to always be course correcting rather than course correcting as a sign of like you fixing something that's fucked up, I just like for me it was like
Mm.
the most like it's just like relieved my anxiety in such a tremendous way to think of myself as
Yes.
always slightly off track, and I'm just like recalibrating. And the beauty and like the image he gives, and
Yeah.
I know Atomic Habits like really pulls a lot from the Slight Edge. The image
Mm.
in the Slight Edge that he gives is that like rocket ships that are going to the moon are off course for like 90% of the time, and the way they get there is by constantly like course correcting, and so it's just like
Mm,
constantly
mhm.
adjusting its path. And so he's like, if we can get a rocket ship to the fucking moon, like you can just think to yourself, oh, for me, like sugar fucked me up. Oh, I had, a bunch of sugar and now I feel like shit, which like is
Mm.
really like a big thing for me. And instead of like beating myself up, I'm just like, okay, I remember sugar feels like shit in my body. Like lesson
Right.
learned moving forward,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Yes, I love when you look at it that way, and you're removing like, like you said, beating yourself up, like this emotional association, and you're just accepting the fact that like life is going to constantly be throwing stuff your way, and if you can get really good at course correcting and problem solving,
mhm.
and like that is like the ideal space to be in to like achieve the things you want to achieve. And I think, I don't know, I know I get so hung up on the beating myself up part.
Mhm.
Like I can get so stuck there that I just feel defeated. Like I
Totally.
can just go from like there's a problem and I'm defeated. And it's like I have had to work to cultivate like a sense of curiosity, like, okay,
Mhm.
here's a
Mhm.
problem. I know that my default experience like self-loathing and beating myself up right now, but we're going to go ahead and just like put that on the shelf for a minute.
Yeah.
We're going to look at this problem, and can I just get curious about this problem? What is a solution to this problem?
Mhm.
Like a simple kind of silly one was, I had so many books piling up that I wanted to read, and I still do. And I was like experiencing frustration that I wasn't like getting through like I wasn't able to read all these books I wanted to read. And I was like, and I had a moment because I wasn't experiencing self loathing because of that. I wasn't like, I'm a horrible person because I can't read a book a week. It was
Yeah.
like more separated from my emotions. So I was able to be really curious about it. And I was like, what's the solution? a solution would be to like practice speed reading techniques. Okay, I did some research and I started implementing those, and then I've been able to move through books quicker. And that was like that was a good experience for me to just kind of be like, oh, see, I can course correct without having this whole emotional detour,
Yes.
and it can just be like a curious, fun experience of figuring out how I can show up the best in the world, you know. And so there's
Yes.
this like, yeah, it's like put the beating yourself up on the shelf and pick up curiosity, right?
Yes.
And
Totally.
be creative. Try something else, see what works the best, you know, for
Mhm.
you. And like I love how you were saying like you knew that if you were scheduling your workouts in the afternoon, by
It
the
won't
time you
get
got
done.
to the afternoon, you were too tired and it wouldn't happen. And so you were like, well, what would work for me? Let's do it first thing. And that
Mhm.
way, you know, I can do it and I'm not waiting until I get so tired. And I don't know, that's such an important element, I think.
Totally, totally. And obviously I
Curiosity.
have like the wonderful privilege of being able to rearrange my schedule, but I also it's funny cuz I've had people be like, "Yeah, well, you can rearrange your schedule." And I'm like, "Yeah, do you know how much work I put in my life to be able to have the ability to rearrange my schedule?" Like that's
Right.
not just something
Right.
somebody gifted to me. That's like a decade's worth of work went into that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's something I
Yeah.
protect because it's like so important to me to be able to do that. Um and but I think also like really truly if you can make the the expectation is that you're always course correcting, that you're always off track. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that if that's
Yes.
the expectation, if you're like I'm always kind of fucking up at laundry. Like I feel like you can
Mm,
like laugh about it, you can implement new things and techniques and just like ways of trying to
yes.
bring like how can I bring like joy and ease to this thing that I really hate? By the way,
Mm,
I fucking hate
mm.
laundry. Like I feel for you in that way. I hate
I
laundry
know, it is just, and
so
then I get
much that
into
we've
like
hired
all
someone
their,
to do laundry. So I
seriously, like
like
that's been part of
that's like
my
a
solution looking. I was like,
yes.
do I hire somebody? Like, I don't know.
Dude,
It's like it is a situation. But
sometimes that is the
I know, like
solution is
that's
like
the
where can I
solution.
find how
Totally.
can I like budget for this thing that
Delegate.
that is
Yeah.
like really my least favorite thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
And it's so
Yeah.
funny. Actually, Ben was teasing me because he was like, we were like running out of towels or something. And I was like, there's only 2 more days till Alejandrina's here. And
Uh-huh.
he was like, I love that you're like, we can make it 2 more days, not we're gonna do laundry
Right.
and like fix this. And I was like, look, we identified early on that this is a problem for us
Right.
and we
Right.
fixed it and
Mm.
it's like I don't know, I used to have a lot of shame in that. Like I used to be like I
Mm.
should be the person who cleans and keeps my house and does laundry, and I actually used to shame myself in
Mm.
that area where I
Mhm.
would be like embarrassed to tell people that we have a housekeeper. I would be embarrassed to like I don't know, like I used to like clean my house from a place of like, how dare you? You know what I mean? Rather than just
Right.
being like, we both work fucking full time. And like
Mm.
and we want to make this a priority because it's not the thing that we
Mhm.
like do well or do like the best.
Mhm.
And it brings an incredible amount of ease. It reduces the amount of arguments we have like in an
Mm.
insane way. I mean, we used to like fight about like house stuff constantly. That was like our
Right.
biggest fight. And
Mm.
then when we like alleviated that, we were like, wow, that was the best, some of the best money we've ever spent is to like
Yeah.
just eliminate that fight. And I think
Yes.
that yeah, I don't know. It's just like something that I think is worth talking about because I know I have a lot of shame around or used to have a lot of shame around not like keeping my own house and feeling like that's
Right.
like something I should be doing. I don't know.
I love that you shared that because it's just like, I don't know. I we are so quick to like judge ourselves and judge other people, I think,
Mhm.
based on our own whatever, like our own values or the values that were handed to us. And I kind of want to like you touched on like an interesting point when you mentioned how somebody was like, oh, it must be nice to be able to rearrange your schedule, or if somebody is listening to this and there's
Mhm.
like, oh,
Oh,
it
it
must be
must be
nice to
nice
be
to
able to
hire a
afford a
housekeeper.
housekeeper.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the thing is like, because we all experience that. First of all, like
Mhm.
I definitely experience having somebody do whatever the thing is,
Mhm.
and you have the it must be nice, and that voice is a really great map
Mhm.
to areas that you are feeling like you have a lot of
Mhm.
self-limiting beliefs. I know for me, and when I follow those maps, for me a big one is like, just in general, is like, oh, that must be nice because y'all don't have kids.
Oh, yeah,
Not
that's
just
a huge
directly,
one.
like, that's a big one, especially like way back in the day when I was like trying to start having some sort of like meditation practice morning routine. I was just like,
Yes.
how when like I'm breastfeeding at like 5 a.m. And it was just, and it was a little bit of a block for me
Mhm.
because but what I ended up realizing was that I the root of what I want is I want some sort of like practice that helps my life. It might not be in the morning.
Right.
Like it might fucking be like in the middle of the afternoon, or I might have a baby on my boob while I'm doing it. You know
Right.
what I mean? And but I've had to like adjust, like how does that show up in my life and how does that work in my life? So for the person who's like, well, I can't work out because I don't have flexibility in my schedule, instead of like using that as like an excuse to not do the thing that's going to benefit your life, because all that does is make you suffer,
Mhm.
it's being like, how does this work in my life? Okay, yeah, I don't have flexibility in my schedule. Okay, yes, I have like children all around me. How can I make the things work for me? How can I delegate? How can I ask for help? How can I squeeze, even if it's like, and this is the thing that works for me so much, is it's
Mhm.
like 10 minutes,
Yes, that's
5
that's it.
minutes.
It's
Like,
just 10 minutes. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be an hour and a half. My morning routine is like 10 minutes
yes.
long. I've had them when they were
Mhm.
longer, but it's just like then I didn't really want to do them after a while. Like like
Yeah.
everything can be broken into 10 minutes. Like truly,
Like
truly.
bite-sized pieces for
Mhm.
me is so helpful, because when I think about doing like a 45-minute workout routine, or
Mhm.
if I think about like having to spend a huge chunk of time even like working on this project or that project, I can like just self destruct from the beginning and just be like, I can't, it's too much, I can't do it. But when I'm like, and this is where we were just talking about this recently, there's this whole Pomodoro technique
It's the
where you
best.
just set 25-minute timers.
Mhm.
And it's kind of this like sweet spot that like you can, people's brains can kind of focus on one thing for like 25 minutes. It's this like, and for me, that works really great. Like it
Mhm.
works so good to like, it's like a game almost, like 25 minutes we're gonna like pound out like whatever is going on in my house or whatever project I'm
Mhm.
working on, a workout or whatever. And that helps me so much. So little, yeah, little tiny bite-sized pieces, the little, because it even goes in alignment with your the spaceship analogy, because they're these little tiny spurts of air, right, that
Mhm.
they, and that's how they like correct the, I
Yes,
mean, they're probably
it's
not, they're probably
true.
actually massive, but
Right, right, right.
yeah,
No, it's a good image though, and
but
it's all so true. Everything you're saying, especially like circling back to the idea that so much of what stops us from doing things is the excuses we make out of judgments when we see
yes.
other people's situations. And also, but usually those judgments come from like a place of values that may or may not be your own. Like for me, it's so funny, actually. I'm like, we're thinking about having kids, talking about having kids like a lot. And I'm already
Mm,
stressed out because I want to be able to like cook my children and like family like dinner every night because I value
mhm,
that because my mom did that and it was like a time to connect and a time to eat. And I'm like, but if my life is the way it is like work-wise right now, like I'm probably realistically not going to be able to cook dinner for my like family every night. And
mhm,
I'm like grappling with it already and already like
mm,
judging myself and also trying to figure out like how do I make that happen and not judge myself how do I like I don't know. Like I don't have an answer to this. I'm just talking about something that's like
Right.
actively like in my mind, and I'm already judging myself for my
Yeah.
non-existent children and the like meals that they may or may not have. Like I'm already being hard on myself and they're not fucking here. I'm not even
Yeah.
pregnant. Like I'm just like,
Yeah.
and it's so funny because it's like
I
it's
love you so
all
much. Yeah.
based, yes. It's all based in
Mhm.
like what I think is important. And I do value like cleaning my house and thinking that that's like something that I should be doing, making meals for my like family. Like I'm already judging myself at the lack of like cooking I'm doing. But like Ben, he's like when would you fucking clean? I mean cook. He's like I don't know when you
Mhm.
would do that right now with like everything you've got going on.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's true. I don't either. I'm gonna try and figure it out
Mhm.
though. Or I don't even know. I don't know. But it really just comes down to the beliefs that I have around valuing that. And honestly, there's so much conversation about how the ability to like have a full-time job, run a business, be a mom, be a partner, it's like kind of an impossibility. It's an impossible fucking
Right.
task that
Mhm.
women are navigating all over. And
Mhm.
I don't know. At the end of the day, you're gonna have to just figure out like what works for you.
Mhm.
And like sometimes you're probably I've already kind of come to terms with like there's probably I'm not gonna be able to like do dinners the way that they were done for me. Um and it's
Right.
gonna look a little different. And I don't know what
Mhm.
it's gonna look like. But I don't know. Those are just it's like they're half baked
It's
thoughts, but they're
it's
running
so true,
around
and
my brain.
I feel you so much. I have so much fucking love for you. I just like this thing that your mind is like going forward and connecting to. It's just it's the mom thing. It's the
Mm.
thing that you're constantly grappling with as a mother,
Mhm.
constantly of like about reflecting how you are mothering based on how you were mothered
Right.
and all those values that were passed down, the things that you loved and you really enjoyed, and like and then feeling like you are
Inadequate before I'm
falling
even there.
short. Yeah, it's just like this is a thing. I mean, it's just I don't think it goes away. Like that is just that is a very real thing.
I kinda want
and
to though. I'm,
and
like,
at the
determined to work on this. Like, I don't want to beat myself up for the
right.
fact that, like, won't be able to cook dinner every night. Maybe the solution is, like, I cook Friday night dinners or something like that.
Exactly. That's what I was just gonna
It's
say
gonna
is
be,
like
like,
maybe you
Shabbat.
have like in your schedule, yeah, that you do it at a certain like a certain time you do it,
Yeah.
and it's just it's it's so much, but
Mhm.
yeah, and then you always just you either you choose to beat yourself up and be miserable, or you get to a place of like really fucking having some compassion for yourself and be like, God damn, I'm
Yeah.
like trying really hard, you know? And
Yeah.
it's just always you have it's one of those two choices really, and I do both. I've done both all the time, but coming back to and then the thing is like there might be like other areas that you find that are like wow, like this is this is like this new thing that's presenting itself to me that is like really good. Like for me, I read to my girls before bed. Like we just
Mhm.
like read through a chapter book, and that was something what I hadn't been doing. And then it was something that I was just like this like this is something that really like has this beautiful effect on my life and connects me and my girls together, and we're like connected in this
Mhm.
story. And then I've just like implemented it, right? And
Mhm.
it just makes I make it work. I don't do it all the time because sometimes like cannot even be awake,
Mhm.
but anyway, I'm rambling a little.
No,
I
no,
feel that so much. Yeah.
it's such a thing, and it's all based in our beliefs around like what makes a
Hmm.
good virtuous person. And we're just
Yeah.
constantly falling short of that. And I think just like maybe if we like the expectation of like what makes a good human was a little bit more realistic, I think we could use that like
Right.
across the board. Like cancel culture is now coming up for me. But I'm just like we're fucking messy and we don't get it right most of the time. And
Hmm.
the days where we do get it right is like those are the days where we're like, yeah, Like, let's like, but we don't, because we don't celebrate that shit. When I'm like doing it right, I don't like
Mm,
usually stop and go like, I'm doing pretty good. Like
fucking awesome.
the moments where I'm like, you're doing all right. Like usually happens when
Yeah.
we turn on TikTok and find people like fishing oysters out of or
Oh my
pearls
God.
out of
I know. We're like,
I called her, I was just for context because this is a really random reference, but it was so funny.
oh my God.
I
It
don't
was
open
so fucking
TikTok that
funny.
much, and I opened TikTok and I was like, I was crying laughing, and I just called you and I was like, Emily. Because it was like showing me all
Do
these
you
lives, and
know?
there were people like pulling
yeah.
out pearls out of oysters, and then there was this like real sassy
Hmm.
lady with her boobs falling out doing like tarot card readings and like getting paid for it.
Yes.
Like all these people are making money this
Yes.
way. And I just was like, Emily, we're doing okay. We're doing good.
We're look at these
Like
people are
more
like
from like,
crushing it.
yeah, like it's just life is so much more absurd. And like, I don't know how hard I am on myself is insane, really. When I like take a step back and like notice the people who are just like feeling good, like given tarot card readings, like literally nothing wrong with that, right? And I
Yeah.
am over here just like beating myself up for like not being the
Right.
110% best version of myself on a meeting earlier that day. It's like,
Right.
we just need to be so much
This is
easier on
like
ourselves.
this is the thing. This is like
Mm.
the this is definitely some like I had to unearth a belief
Ah.
that I I believed that the only way I would get this was a subconscious belief that like just existed and was affecting me in such a huge way. But what it was that I believed that the only way I would get better and change and grow is if I was really fucking hard on myself.
Ooh.
Like and I had that belief
I think I did
because
too,
I got
actually.
some tough love stuff from
Yeah.
like pick yourself up from your bootstraps, just keep going. Like
Huh.
it was more of the tough love thing and not really like um a super nurturing, intentional, like affirmative, like
Mhm.
positive reinforcement. Right? It was just like keep fucking going. Like, yeah, you're hurt, you're sick, you're like keep going. And so I internalized the tough love which I'm not I'm there are definitely areas I think that that's appropriate, but how I internalized it, it kind of became all consuming. And then I had a belief that I had to beat myself up because if
Mm.
I didn't beat myself up and made me make myself suffer for my failures, then I'm never going to do better. But what really happened, the truth of what happened is that just spiraled me. And that was just like a whole self sabotage train. And
Mhm.
I actually couldn't get better and I couldn't do better because I was beating myself up so much. And when I unearthed that, and I'm like, holy shit, I remember my therapist was like, is that how you parent your children? And I'm like, no, like that is like so out of alignment with my values. Like
Yes.
I parent my children with like conscious compassionate parenting because I see that that works better. Like when my children make a
Right.
mistake, if I show up with them and I am like empathetic and compassionate and we have a discussion about like what we can do differently in the future and it's positive reinforcement and encouragement, they do better.
Mhm.
Like, and if I show up and I'm hard on them, they just shut down. And
Right.
so I realized like what I was doing to myself is just shutting myself down
Mhm.
based on this belief that somehow with this tough love I'm going to be the best version of myself, and that's just not true for
Mhm.
me. And I had to like completely reframe, and I'm still practicing this into parenting myself more along the lines of the values that I parent my daughters, like
Mhm.
with like compassion and encouragement and understanding and positive reinforcement. And that really falls so much in alignment with what we're talking about,
Yes.
like being curious, raising our baselines, course correcting these small adjustments, fits so much more better in a belief of like treating yourself with kindness in
Mhm.
light of mistakes or failures or falling short or whatever, because that's going to always happen. So
Totally.
let's maybe try kindness and not this other
Yes.
way. So that was a huge shift for me,
It's
that I
it's
over the last few years.
and
Yeah.
I think that this is like the thing I want to be like the takeaway is that I don't think that it's so often explicitly called out that like as you slowly like do raise your baselines, like things do get easier. Like everything becomes much more integrated and it's not it's not as hard. And then when hard things in
Mhm.
life happen because you're like at a new baseline level, it doesn't like knock you down as hard. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm. Mhm.
and it doesn't mean that like life is easy by any means, but it's just it's like worth it is really what I want to like drive home. It's worth it, and it's small consistent actions, and it's giving yourself grace and remembering that you're constantly course correcting, and at the end of the day, like, that is going to I don't know, it's just such a better way. I've even noticed it with, like, you know, the people who work for me. I try to, like, come from a place of empowerment rather than fear, and when they make mistakes, they are like I we all I think kind of not all of us maybe, but like most of us have this kind of conditioning. I think just from our like parents' generation
Yeah.
was so much more like tough love, fear as a
Yeah.
motivator.
Authoritarian.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
using fear as the
Mhm.
primary drive to get people to do what you
Yeah.
want them to do. I mean, like that's like a massively common culture in like corporate culture, right? Like you fuck
Right.
up and you get in
Right.
trouble. And I just like have
Right.
refused from day one to like because I don't do my best work from a place of fear. I like freeze
Right.
and like panic and then I'm like a
Mhm.
disaster. And yeah, I guess I just like if I could go back and talk to myself, 7 years ago, however long it was ago when I was like in rehab and like fucking hating myself. I wish I guess I did actually know it to some extent because it's how I like kept showing up and doing little stuff for myself, but I wish I could be like it's gonna work. Cuz I didn't
Mm.
obviously have
Mhm.
that like faith and belief
Right.
that I do
Right.
now. Cuz now when I have like a big problem that I need to tackle, it's not nearly as dramatic as it once was because I have the knowledge
Right.
and I have the inner knowing that like small stuff's going to get me there and fix this thing. I don't need to
Right.
like make a massive
Yes.
decision or change or like do anything radical. I just need to like, okay, what do I do? How do I rearrange my life so I can make this thing a priority? And then it gets better and it gets better
Yeah.
more quickly than I ever predict. Usually it's like even a few days, a few weeks. Like it's not like a whole
Mm.
year of showing up usually depending on what the goal is, right? But anyway, that was
Yeah.
like
This mindset that you have though, I don't like, I don't know if I know very many people that operate that way. Like with the
hmm,
faith that you have in
yeah,
your ability to course correct and solve problems, so many people operate in this level of defeat. Like
hmm,
I have this problem and I'm defeated and I can't make this massive leap that I think I need to make in order to fix it. And it is this like, if people could get a hold of this idea of that you can break it all down to these small,
hmm,
manageable, easy to do things,
hmm,
it would like and be able to separate yourself from the emotional like beating yourself up part.
hmm,
I think we would all be like, there would be a level, I think, of like peace and just equilibrium or something,
yeah,
because like I love getting to witness, because I've gotten to see you like come across problems, and I feel that faith that you have. And
hmm,
you've done that for me, because like I have come face to face with problems where I'm like, this is gonna kill me. This is what takes me out. And you like show up with this faith because you have been there and survived and done the thing and kept showing up and kept course correcting. And I have like leaned on that faith that you have. And
hmm,
because I'm like, I believe you. Like I
hmm,
believe you when I've been in like really dark places where I haven't been able to like fucking do a single thing. And it's such a precious, valuable thing that I'm working to cultivate in my life
Mhm.
actively. And I
Yeah, and you're
think that
doing
this is
it.
like such a valuable conversation to have, to just like tell other people, like it isn't these massive big steps to take.
Right.
Like you can do a 10-minute thing today
Mhm.
that like a few months down the line you might be really like reaping benefits of feeling happier, healthier, like more
Mhm.
stable, more,
Yeah, it
clear
usually doesn't
minded. I
even
don't know.
take a full months. It usually only takes like days
Yeah.
and weeks, and that's the thing that I like really
Mhm.
like I'm always trying to impress upon people. And I actually really think that this is like the gift of this is like getting sober and like not drinking.
Mm.
Um I think that
Mm.
that was a tremendous gift that that whole process like gave me. It was like a deep faith in this. Um
Oh, wow, yeah.
like it's the
Can you
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
No, I just want you to tell me more about that connection and how I would love to hear.
I guess because that's like the hardest things that I've ever done in
Mm.
my life were stop drinking and getting divorced. Like without a
Mhm.
doubt. They were the two hardest things by like leaps and bounds. Like nothing
Right.
comes close to those two. Um and and like really truly and more so getting like stopping like quitting drinking because it took me many times to try to get it like to finally have it stick. um and I think that this is what got me to that place was like practicing this even though I like didn't fully know that I would believe, but I like had no other choice because I truly was like
Right.
when I like went to rehab for the last time. um I was fully convinced that I was like on the path to death. Like I was like I am
It
going to
was life
die.
or death
Yeah,
for
like
you.
this was
Yeah.
like a life or
Yeah.
death situation. I was like if I continue
Yeah.
this direction, like death is there waiting for me. Like I have to choose a
Mm.
different path. um and like truly like suicide was an option. Like I was like,
Mhm.
mm, like that feels very tempting.
Appealing.
Yeah, I was like, this feels like a nice
Yeah.
out. I'd like kind of like that choice. And so once I decided that that wasn't going to be my choice, I mean, it was kind of like, what the fuck do I do? And
Right.
honestly, in part, the only option I had was small things because that's literally all I could handle.
All
Was
you could
like
do. Yeah.
just like and like that's a big part of the conversation in like recovery. Is they're like just feed yourself today well. Drink
Mm.
plenty of
Mhm.
water. That's a win. Like that's the kind of like things that they're
Mm.
like celebrating you for when you're in recovery
Yeah.
because it's like it's a big fucking deal when you're like in that
Yeah.
like hole of despair to like eat 3 square meals a day
Care for your
and
body at all.
move
Yeah.
your body and get
Mm.
sunshine and drink water. And I don't know. I think that just like I think I just got really sick of beating myself up too. Like I just like literally hated
Mm.
myself so much.
Mhm.
And that is like I don't know. It's just like no way to live life. And I just think things got so dark and so bad that the only choice was to like make small changes and like and now I can't lie, like when you like do that, you're like I can fucking do anything. Like
Right.
I just like
See,
sometimes have
that's
moments where I'm like I don't know, remember that massive like like unexpected tax bill that I got while I was visiting you?
yes.
I actually have in my
Yes.
calendar coming up to like touch base and to reflect on like last year. And I have a list of questions we
Yeah.
wrote ourselves. We never did that like time capsule recording, which I'm kind of bummed about.
I know.
But the time is coming up. And so I've been thinking about that time where I was there and I had that like massive tax bill where I like literally was like, like I'm gonna puke because it was
I know.
like
I remember that.
it was so outside of the scope of like my understanding of finances. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like
Mhm.
how can that be? It was because I had an
Right.
accountant who was not doing his job. Um, uh, and I don't know. In that moment, I remember like remembering it's tiny steps, Sarah. Like you will fix this.
Yeah.
But like also having moments
Yes.
of panic where I was like, I'm
Freak out.
fucked. Yeah. And you
Totally.
were there like witnessing both. I was like,
Back and forth. I
This is
know.
it. This is the end. And then there was like,
This takes
I'm
me
gonna
out.
figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Fuck. Like it's just like
Yeah.
so. It depends on
And
how
that,
big the thing
like,
is, you know.
totally. And I think that that's the gift that comes out of those dark nights of the soul. The
Hmm.
gift that comes out of that is this thing that I see on you, this like this it's not it's not resilience, it's not
It's
strength,
faith.
it's what is it?
It's faith.
Oh, faith. Yes. It's this faith in yourself.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know?
Self
And
trust.
it's this, yeah, it's this sense of like betting on yourself and relying on yourself. And you it's hard to describe because and I know your story, so maybe I'm more like attuned to it,
Hmm.
but I am like you almost like emulate this feeling of faith, like I can feel the faith that you have in yourself, like when you bump up against something hard, or even when you're holding space when I'm experiencing something hard, I can feel that thing, like I can feel that part of you. This is gonna like make me fucking cry, but that part of you that was in that really fucking dark place,
Hmm.
and you chose yourself,
Hmm.
and I think like so when we're like talking about this shit, it's like it comes from like the core. Like it's
Hmm.
coming from the core of you, and
Hmm.
it's like something that's like a fresher journey with like my dark night of the soul, I think,
Hmm.
but like it is like I don't know. It's so real and so important.
Hmm.
And I know not everybody has like life and death like types of, dark nights of the
Hmm.
soul that they have to go through. And um
Well,
but we all know what it feels like to feel defeated and to feel despair and to feel
mhm,
overwhelmed,
mhm. A big part of it is also like truly making a choice. Like I
Yeah.
I often in my morning routine and in my affirmations remind myself of these things because I actually see it in Ben a little bit. He doesn't like give himself a lot of credit and he's pretty hard on himself. And I just and I don't and I feel like I could have stayed there. But I just
Mm,
I don't know. That's why, like, ease was my word of the year a year or 2 ago,
yeah.
because I was just like, I don't really want to keep beating myself up because I just don't fucking see the value in it anymore.
Mm,
And,
mhm.
um, and so I take active steps to remind myself what I've, like, been through and how I can trust myself, because I don't think that it
Mm,
just, like, I guess I just want to impress upon people that it is work to remind myself to trust myself. It doesn't, there is a
mm.
faith, but it comes from like, I'm very intentional about
Actively connecting to it.
activating
Yes.
self trust in myself through
Yes.
affirmations, reminding myself, having these conversations, quite frankly. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, this
Mm.
exact conversation, like, is a, is a choice to be like, this is where my self-trust comes from, and that and when I have moments of panic, I have to, like, in that moment with the, like, tax thing, I had to be like,
Mhm.
"You have to trust yourself here. You will figure this out. You
Mm.
can talk to people who are smarter than you in this area and get their, like,
Yeah.
advice." You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
because self-trust isn't necessarily. Oh, this is actually really important. The self trust isn't necessarily in my ability to do it completely on my own. It's in
Right.
reminding
Right.
myself that there are people out there who have survived and thrived what I have gone through. And therefore, it is something I can figure out 100%. And I might not know the answers
Mm.
now, but I definitely know that I'll be able to find someone who can help me figure out the answers.
Yes.
Um, and
Yes.
so it's that too. It's not like I'm going to do this all on
Mhm.
my own and figure it out on my own. That was a
Right.
situation I had never navigated before, and I cried a lot. And I reached out to
Right.
like literally anyone I could think of who might have like good advice for me in that area.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
Yeah. No,
it's
that is such a good point, that it is like the I can
figure
like
this out.
figure this out, whatever that
Mhm.
looks like. I can ask for help. I can, and it's like that is this is something that I say to myself when I come up against a problem that I feel like I don't have
Mhm.
the answer for right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
Is I say to myself, there is a future version of me that's maybe not too distant future who's going to have what she needs to make this decision.
Mhm.
And like that's the kind of like how I look at that self trust is like I know I'm resourceful and I can be curious and I can ask questions and I can ask
Yes.
for help and I'm going to grow and learn and eventually I'm going to be a version of myself that can make a good decision for my life or whatever this
Totally.
thing is that I need to figure out. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Ugh. It's like the number one thing I want to cultivate in my children is like self-trust
Mm,
and self-reliance.
mhm.
But that doesn't mean
Yes.
like hyper individual like reliance where you're not that all of that includes seeing other humans as like life resources from their own life
Mm,
experience.
mhm,
So it's not to do it
mhm.
all alone, you know? Anyway,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, this was so good.
I love this conversation. I think it's like, I wish somebody explained this to me when I was younger. You know what I mean?
Honest to goodness, like, yes. Yes. I feel like I've moved through the vast majority of my life just feeling like everything was chaos. It was just chaos
Yes.
and like despair and moments of joy. And I just like, and where I'm at, I'm like, this is all so much more figure outable
Yeah.
than I ever thought,
Yes. Totally. Totally. You can do it. One of my
Yes.
favorite affirmations is my problems are not unique. Everyone has survived and thrived what I'm going through. And so the answers are out there. I just have to be open and willing to receive them. That has been an affirmation of mine
Mm.
for years. And it's funny because I've shared it with other people and a lot of people butt up against the like my problems aren't unique actually made me feel like
They're like, but I'm
but
special.
yeah, you're like, "Wait, what?" Because I think we also
But
have an
my
attachment to
problems are
suffering,
special.
you
Yeah.
know? We're like
Yes.
totally. Ah, well, I love
Yeah. I
you.
love that though. That's so good. I love you.
It's fun.
Yay. And thank you
Yay.
for everybody for listening. I guess you can check us
Oh, yeah, we're
out
on
on
innerarcheology.com now. We have a
yes, we have
website,
a website.
and we have a Patreon,
Yay. And there's mhm.
patreon.com/innerarcheology, and videos are now live, so you can watch us. Yay, it's all fun.
Yes, we're like doing all the tech stuff. It feels really good to feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, putting it together. So,
Well, until
okay,
next
until next
time.
time. Yeah. All
Bye.
right. Bye.